Hello, welcome. This is the prediction video for UFC 211. It's coming on 13th of May from the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. This is going to be Miocic versus Dos Santos 2. Originally, Verdum was going to fight Ben Rothwell on this card. That fell apart when Rothwell failed an out-of-competition drug test. I like Rothwell, I like Verdum as well. Rothwell did say that he was being treated by a doctor for an illness and he was under the doctor's care. We'll see whether this affects USADA's decision and punishment for him. Rothwell does have form for failing drug tests. He previously failed for elevated TRT levels, even though he had got a therapeutic use exemption. He went above the threshold that he was allowed. Verdum is looking to fight his contract out. I hope he changes his mind, but at the moment he's not having a good time with the UFC. They cut him from his announcing job over his, I guess what you call Nike jokes. He was supposed to fight JDS, and he was calling out JDS for being a homosexual and other kind of weird things that I can't support, even though generally I like Verdum. I think he's pretty funny. And just before I sat down to do this video, there's some breaking news that Luke Rockhold is desperately trying to get a fight with Verdum. Apparently they have a long-standing beef over Verdum stealing his girl in a nightclub or something like this. Rockhold is willing to go up to heavyweight to make it happen. But according to Ariel Helwani, the UFC have other plans for Verdum, and it looks like Verdum versus Ngannou. But none of that's confirmed. I do think Verdum versus Stipe 2 would have been good, or Verdum versus JDS 2 would have been good. But obviously both of those two guys are tied up in the main event. Now, let me get to what is on paper the best card of 2017. From a fan's perspective anyway, I don't think this is going to do blockbuster numbers on pay-per-view buys. But having said that, I don't particularly care about how the UFC does on pay-per-view buys. I'm more interested in the fights that they put together. And I think on this card rather, they've absolutely stacked it with killer fights. So the first fight on the card, or as I'm going to read them out, this is Jessica Aguilar against Courtney Casey. Jessica Aguilar, this is not 100% confirmed either, but I have heard that this one is going to be on the card. So I will make a prediction for it anyway. Jessica Aguilar is 19-5 in her professional career, and Courtney Casey is only 6-4. Casey has a height and reach advantage. She used to be a kind of football player, soccer player in the States, and she retired because of injury and moved across to MMA. She quite recently beat Randa Marcos, and she's 3-2 in the UFC. Most recently, she lost to Claudia Gadelha. All her losses are via decision, so she's the tough cookie. Also, Aguilar recently lost to Gadelha as well. That was her UFC debut. She does hold a split decision win over Carla Esparza in Bellator. She has 8 submission victories, but 9 decision victories. Casey has never won by decision and has lost 3 times. Her 6 wins are split evenly between TKOs and decisions. Now, what I decided to do for this fight was look at how they matched up against Gadelha as a common opponent, and try and see what I could glean from that. Now, in terms of Courtney Casey, she was very open to being double-legged by Gadelha, and even though she had the height and reach advantage, again, when she would throw her punches and combinations, she would lean in with her head, which made her very hittable. Like she was almost leaning down to fight. You know, I didn't see very many positives for Casey in that encounter, and I'm not too sure what she's going to be able to take into the fight with Aguilar. However, I did see more from Aguilar and probably a way that Aguilar can win. So Aguilar has good knees and very good leg kicks. So she doesn't have great takedowns, but I think the way that Aguilar could win this fight is she beats up the lead leg of Casey. And then, you know, she's got the striking power to KO her. Well, I don't think she's got the striking power to KO her, but I think Casey leaves her head in, so she might knock her down. And from there, you know, she can get her down, probably hold her down, do more on the ground. So I'm actually going to go with Gidea on the judges' scorecard. Aguilar, sorry, not Gidea. Gidea's beaten them both. Yeah, I'm going with Aguilar on the judges' scorecard for this one. Now, the second fight I've got down on the card is this is going to be a fun one. Gadzimarov Antugolov against Jakim Christiansen. Now, Antugolov is 19-4. That's 14 submission victories. He's 5'11". He's got the 70-inch reach, and he's about 30 years old. Actually, he's training out of my favorite Russian team, Gorets. So, you know, in that sense, I like him a lot already. Christiansen, 38 years old, 14-4. He's quite big, 6'4", and he's got a big reach advantage as well with 6-inch reach advantage. His victories are split, you know, 5 TKOs, 5 submissions, and 4 decisions. From what I've seen of Christiansen, he has good uppercuts. He can box at range as well, but I think his close range boxing is better for him. He does have a very good chin, but he's willing to get hit because of that. I do think this will end up going to the ground. I think that favors Antigolov. The uppercuts could win it for JC, but I don't see it. I see this being a submission victory for Antigolov, you know, and then he can move forward. For Christiansen, you know, this might be the end of the road for a guy who's 38 years old. Now, third up on the card is another fun set of names for me to be picking up with. Yaris Danko against Dmitry Pobershets. If anybody was unlucky enough to see Danko against Omilamchek, that was, for me, that was one of the most disappointing fights and painful things to ever watch. Then Danko went on and drew with Colombo. You know, he's won all his victories via strikes. And this is actually Pobershets' UFC debut. He's currently on a 14-fight win streak. Well, I say 14-fight win streak. There was a no contest in there as well. Now, in terms of how we can judge this, I don't think either of these guys are elite MMA practitioners. And this is going to be a case of bombs going off in the first round, I think. Beyond the first round, I think Pobershets has better stand-up. He's more technical, and he'll pull away later on in the fight. Danko just kind of, he's a disaster with cardio. You know, I imagine the first 3 minutes of this fight could be interesting. After that, it's going to get bad very quickly. I do think the Ukrainian will have a chance to stay on the outside and win by decision by strikes if he wants to, but I really don't see it coming to that. I think that the debut fighter is going to win this one by KO pretty early on. maybe second round, and I hope that Danko gets cut. This guy, really, you know, the heavyweight division has some real stinking fights. The Danko Miocic was the worst. Now, following on from that, we actually go to a pretty good fight. We have Chad Skelly versus Jason Knight. Chad Skelly, 17-2, 32 years old, 5'9". Jason Knight, 17-2, but he's only 24, and he's got the height advantage at 5'11". Now, if you've seen these guys fight, you can assume fairly easily that this one is going to be contested on the floor. I don't think that it's going to stay standing for long. I actually think if I'm Chad Skelly, I try and keep it standing as long as I can. I think he's got an advantage there. But really, this fight is going to be on the ground, and it's going to be about transitions. That's a complete flip of a coin. You know, I think Jason Knight is a slippery dude, and he could certainly find a way to show his back to Skelly's back. But I think in terms of power and control on the ground, Skelly's more advanced, and for this reason, I'm going to pick Skelly to win by submission. I'm really looking forward to this, though. I think it's going to be a great battle on the ground. I think that this is the kind of fight that the UFC should be making. We're really going to get to see where these guys are in their MMA development. You know, if Jason Knight does get the win, he's going to be, you know, looking upwards, I think. For Skelly, I don't know that the win moves him forward that much. But talking about guys looking up, we have James Vick going up against Paulo Reyes. Now, James Vick, I think, in his last performance, really showed that he's finally mastered the reach advantage that he has. You know, he's a big guy for this division. He's 6'3". Reyes is only 5'11", and I think that if Vick is able to control distance standing, then he has got the tools to go forward, you know, up towards that top 5. Now, Reyes does have the power to end this fight, but I think because Vick's learned how to use distance, he'll be able to keep him away until he wants to get in and then take him down. On the ground, for me, Vick has a distinct advantage. I don't see it going any other way than Vick taking this down and submitting him. I like Vick. He's 10-1 at the moment. I think if he's able to control the distance still, maybe even improve his standing and keep taking guys down to the ground, he keeps winning. You know, for me, Reyes has to really get lucky with Vick coming in on a shot or something and knock him out. Next up, we get into the real super fights. And we have Henry Cejudo, Olympic gold medalist, going up against the young Pettis, Sergio Pettis. Now, while it's been, you know, a tough time for Anthony Pettis, you know, he's been floundering somewhat. Sergio has really pulled it together and been on a nice run since he went back down to 125. Now, I feel that Sergio's striking is as good as it gets in the division. I think he's able to compete with everybody there. I don't know if he can handle Cejudo's wrestling. You know, this is an Olympic gold medal wrestler. I don't think Pettis has come up against a guy like this in the cage. However, saying that, he does train with Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley. You couldn't ask for better partners in the gym to prepare you. You know, how to... He doesn't actually have to wrestle with Cejudo. He just has to block the takedowns. You know, so if he can keep this standing, I like Pettis' chances, you know, for outstriking Cejudo. That's not to say Cejudo's not a good striker. I think Cejudo has ability standing up. I don't think either of the guys will knock each other out. But I just see Cejudo being too good in the wrestling. He's going to take him down. He's going to grind out a victory by decision. So that's the first of the super fights, and that's a really good fight, I think. The next fight is David Branch versus Jotko, Krzysztof Jotko. Now, for people who might not have been around the first time, David Branch was in the UFC. He left in 2011 after losing via leg lock to Rosemary Palhares. And there's no shame in losing to Palhares at all. He's the ex-World Series of Fighting middleweight champion. He did beat Yuji Nakami. He's very diverse, and he can win via submission, via TKO. He's a very, very good fighter. Now, having said that, Jotko is also a very, very good fighter in all aspects of the game. He's a pressure fighter, and I think he'll push the action with Branch. And the thing for Jotko is that he usually wins via decision. So I don't know if he's got enough to finish Branch, where I feel Branch has enough to finish Jotko. The other thing that came into my mind is, in terms of matching these guys up, both guys are 6'1", Jotko's 19-1, and Branch is 20-3. So they're not, in terms of experience, let's say, they're not a million miles apart, but I think Branch at 35 will feel that this is his last chance at the big show. He was a champion in World Series of Fighters for sure, but this is his last chance to make a run at the UFC Gold. And that might be the deciding factor in a very, very close fight. So, I think this will go either way. I don't know that Branch will be able to submit Jotko, but he might be able to catch him with he's got a very powerful shot, I think he's got all the experience that he needs to compete at this level. He's very calm, and I'm going to go with the TKO victory to David Branch. I also think this is going to be the fight of the night. I wouldn't be surprised if this went to decision, a split decision. I think it's going to be great though. I'm very excited about this. Next up, I've got to be honest, when I looked at the rest of the card and I looked at this one, I was like, who the hell are these guys? Enrique Barrazola and Gabriel Benitez. Barrazola is 12-3-1. Benitez is 19-5. They have a few fights in the UFC as well. We know who they are, but you look at the rest of the card, and the rest of the card is so solid. And then I look at these guys, and I don't know. Okay, let's break it down a little bit. Barzola, I think he has weird stand-up. Like, he encourages people to hit him, but I don't know that he's competent enough to do it to anybody high level. The way he holds his gum shield as well makes me really uncomfortable, and I think it opens him up for a knockout. I like him better on the ground. I think he can win via submission or ground and pound there. And, that's the only way he's going to win this, is he takes it down and finds a submission or ground and pound. I think the stand-up, maybe he gets lucky in an exchange, but his stand-up for me is, maybe it's the way he's been taught, but it doesn't seem very technical. Now, Benitez, on the other hand, he's a little bit more natural in the stand-up. I think he looks a little bit more comfortable. I think on the ground, he's very good defensively, so that will probably neutralize Barzola. I do think he's got some good submissions as well, from what I've seen. So I expect Benitez to win this one via submission. And then we're back to the super fights. So Frankie Edgar versus Yair Rodriguez. Now, in terms of fighters that I love, these two are right up there. Frankie Edgar has just had some of the best wars or best matches in MMA history. You know, yeah, Rodriguez has come on the scene, and his stand-up is amazing. You know, he's doing things that other fighters can only dream of or only appear in video games. You know, Rodriguez is 10-1. Frankie is 21-5-1. Rodriguez has a substantial height advantage. He's 5'11" to Edgar's 5'6". Now, in terms of the common opponent, they both fought BJ Penn, but they both fought BJ Penn at very different times. I think the last Edgar fight against BJ Penn is probably more comparable to Yair's experience with BJ. And I think, you know, we haven't really seen enough of Yair on the ground to really comment about how he is. But if Frankie lets him fight at range, Yair can knock everybody out. If I'm Frankie Edgar, you know, I think he's got to get in close, try and box him a little bit in close, but more than that, he's got to take him down and wrestle him. He's got to take him down, wrestle him, and ground and pound him. I like Yair. I think Yair will learn from this, and I think he'll come out better for it. But I think this one's Frankie Edgar's. Now, whether he wins by decision, whether he wins by tap out, or whether he wins by ground and pound, I think what we're going to see is Frankie Edgar take down Yair and give him a lesson on the ground. Maybe Yair is going to surprise us. Maybe he's got great jiu-jitsu. Maybe he's got great wrestling. We'll see. You know, I mean, if he beats Frankie Edgar, he's very much deserving of a title shot. Yeah. I mean, Frankie's talked about dropping down in weight class as well. Obviously, it's difficult to see Frankie getting a title shot with a win here. You know, unless Max Holloway wins. But for Yair, I like the chances. But I think Frankie wins this one. Then on the supercard, we have Eddie Alvarez versus Dustin Poirier. Both of these guys also have a common opponent in Conor McGregor. I don't think we can take much information from that. You know, Alvarez is 33 years old. He's got 28 victories and 5 defeats. Poirier, Alvarez is 33. Poirier is 28, has 21 and 5. Both guys are 5'9". You know, they're fairly even guys. I feel the big difference is Poirier is more of a technical striker. Eddie Alvarez is a guy who swarms you, puts pressure on, wrestles you, takes you down. And the bad news for Poirier is when he gets in those kind of wars, he doesn't do so well. I don't think there's going to be a knockout. I think this one's going to be Eddie Alvarez on points. I think it's a great matchup though. You know, if Poirier can keep it technical, he can keep Alvarez at distance. I don't know that he could keep Alvarez at distance, but if he could, then, you know, I think you've got to imagine that he's got a good chance. Now, like I said, I don't think he can. I think Eddie will get inside. I think Eddie will wrestle him. He'll press him up against the fence. He'll get him in dirty boxing range and rough him up. And Poirier is able to be baited into those kind of exchanges. And I think Alvarez comes out on top. That's Alvarez's kind of fight. Continuing the great fights, we have Damian Maia, who should be getting a title shot, going up against Jorge Masvidal. Now, there's something weird that not a lot of people have picked up on. You know, not a lot of fighters have met with Ari Emanuel or anybody from the new ownership. Jorge Masvidal has, and Ari Emanuel likes him, according to Masvidal. I believe it was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani that he dropped that nugget of information, but it's very weird, you know. And then Masvidal is getting these weird fights, and now he's in what can only be considered a title eliminator against Demian Maia. Now, I love Maia, you know, he's been so elusive, taking guys down, not getting hit. He's 39 years old, you know. He really, in my opinion, he should have waited for the title shot. Honestly, I didn't like his chances in the title. And I think what's going to happen is the same that would have happened in the title shot. I think that what you're going to see is Masvidal do some anti-takedown, and it's great that Maia hasn't been hit recently, but the problem is I think Masvidal puts hands on him, or feet. He's good with the legs, and Masvidal's, you know, he's on a tear at the moment. He's an animal. So I think what we're going to see is Masvidal touch Demian Maia and win via knockout. Now, I love Maia. I hope it's not true. I hope, you know, we get a blanket performance and he goes on and gets his title shot, whether the fans boo it or not. You know, I mean, also for Masvidal, one of the problems can be that, or used to be rather, he would stand off guys and wait for them to do something. But he seems to have a fire under him at the moment, and he's very, very dangerous. He's a very, very technical fighter, standing and on the ground. Obviously, if it goes to the ground, you've got to favour Maia to control him. But I'm not even sure whether Maia could finish him on the ground. I think Masvidal is just, he's in a different place at the moment, you know, and I really believe in the momentum of fighters. And for me, it kind of feels like all that Maia has been doing, he's like pushing the rock up the hill, up the hill, up the hill. And probably him accepting this fight is him accepting that he's tired, you know, and Masvidal is just running through walls at the moment, you know, and for me, Masvidal comes into this with more momentum. Then we get to the first of the two title fights, which is Joanna Jędrzejczyk against Jessica Andrade. Now, Joanna has been a very, very dominant champion. She's 13-0, and Andrade is 16-5. So very beatable. Now, Andrade actually is 4 years younger. So she has more fights, and she's younger. Now, there's a little bit of a height differential, 5'6" to 5'2". I do think that it was a good move for Jędrzejczyk to move camps. I do think that if this is only a striking battle, Jędrzejczyk wins. But I think Andrade is a very, very tough opponent. I think she's going to push the action. She's going to push this up against the fence. She's going to take this down and smother Jędrzejczyk. And my big question is if she's able to do it early and tire Jędrzejczyk out, who's going to keep the energy for the 5 rounds? I can very easily see Jędrzejczyk catching Andrade early and, you know, knocking her around a little bit. But I think Andrade is she's very determined, and I don't think she's going to get knocked out. I don't think Jędrzejczyk's going to get knocked out, but I think Andrade is going to push this and win via decision. It's not going to be very popular in Poland, but, you know, so be it. And then we get to the main event. You know, we'll have had a stacked card, tons of great fights, and then we get to the heavyweight main event, the rematch of Stipe Miocic versus Junior Dos Santos. I actually just watched earlier today their first fight. Wow, that was a war. You know, that was a really, really fun fight to watch as a fan. I was a little surprised to discover that Miocic is the older of the two guys. Miocic is 34 and JDS is 33. I don't know why, something I thought, you know, Miocic was the young up-and-comer. I actually thought JDS was a little bit older and Stipe was a little bit younger. Both guys are 6'4". You know, Golden Gloves champion, NCAA Division I wrestler, part-time fireman. You know, Croatian superstar Stipe Miocic goes up against, you know, Brazil's favorite boxer. Actually a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We don't really see it that much. Both guys have won by submission in their career, but they've won by submission via strikes. I do believe Junior Dos Santos also has a legitimate submission very early on in his career. But he trains out of Nova União, and the things that I've heard out of there are very positive about his BJJ. I actually think the BJJ is going to come into it. You know, I think the thing that we've got to consider here is Miocic had a lot of success pushing JDS up against the fence early on, pressuring him. I don't know whether we'd say really that JDS outstruck him in the boxing. I think they were pretty even in that. But JDS did not kick. And I think that that is a huge mistake. You know, if I'm Stipe, he threw a few leg kicks, and I think he needs to do a lot more of that. And obviously JDS probably fears the takedown. Yeah, maybe rightfully so. But I think JDS needs to kick more. You know, if he can't be scared of getting taken down. If he gets taken down, you know, employ that BJJ. You know, that's what you need to do. You need to have confidence in your jiu-jitsu. The other people around you have confidence in your jiu-jitsu. In the stand-up, both of you can knock each other out or, you know, damage each other at least. I don't see Stipe throwing many kicks, especially to the head. I can see JDS doing it and scoring big. Now, is it going to be enough? Or is it going to be a case that JDS scores and then Stipe gets knocked down and we'll be looking at some kind of submission? Well, I think we're going to have a surprise with JDS winning via submission. Now, I've got to be honest, the likelihood that JDS wins via submission, it's pretty slim. It's very likely that this goes to decision. And the one thing that we saw in the last JDS Miocic fight was that Miocic has a problem in the later rounds, getting tired. Now, there's been a big difference between then and the previous fight and now. You know, and hopefully Miocic has addressed that and he's a little bit used to going longer. But, you know, he didn't get a full 5 rounds out of Verdum or over him. You know, and I have a question as to whether if it goes later on in the fight, it makes Miocic much more vulnerable. You know, can Miocic finish this? Yes. Can Miocic out-wrestle him on the ground and, you know, smother him for up against the fence to get a victory? Yes. Could this go either way with those heavy shots, you know, when they're trading? Yes. So I think the only thing that one guy can do to the other that the other can't do to him is kicks, you know, and that for me is where JDS has to look. Can he score some kicks? Okay, let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, share this with your friends. You know, let me know if you want some other content.